This is Miss Humbert here. Today we're going to be doing Unit 9 Notes 4. So we're talking about the lateral and surface areas of pyramids and cones. So there's just a couple things you need to recognize about pyramids before we start talking about them. So the vertex is going to be this top point right here. A lateral edge is going to be these edges that connect to one point on the base. Okay, so then we kind of have two different heights that we're dealing with. First is the slant height. So you'll notice that the slant height is going to slant up with the side of the pyramid. Now that's different than the altitude. The altitude would be if you were just to stick a ruler down and see how tall your pyramid is. That's the altitude versus measuring how high the slanted side is. That's the difference between the two. Then we have a base down here. So this base is a square, and all of the edges around the base are considered the base edge. So let's take a look at calculating out the lateral, we'll draw the net. Okay, so when you draw the net, let's just go ahead and take a look at this together. Okay, so what we have on the bottom here is we have a pentagon, if you'll notice. So this is the pentagon, that's going to start off as our base. Notice that that's in the center of our net. And then from each side of the pentagon, we have a triangle that's going to kind of fold up into our prism. So the height of each of the triangles is represented by that slanted height. So that's where that slanted height is going to come into play because it is the height of each of our triangles. So let's take a look at that lateral area. So just as always, the lateral area is going to be 1/2 and then times the perimeter of the base, except instead of using the height, we're going to use the lateral or the slant height, or represented by L. So we're using that slant height, not the altitude. So just maybe make a note to yourself that the L is going to represent the slant height, and that the P is still going to be the perimeter when you're talking about each of those formulas. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at calculating this out. Find the lateral area of the square pyramid. Okay, so since it's a square pyramid, that means that each of these sides are 4. So for the lateral area, I'm going to have 1/2 times the perimeter. Well, the perimeter is going to be 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, because each of those side lengths are 4. Then times the slant height, which is given to me as 6. Okay, so then I'm going to have 1/2 times 16 times 6. And that I could type it to my calculator. When you multiply that out, you get 189, and then it's going to be inches, and you need to square it because we are talking about an area, so our label is squared. Find the lateral area of a regular hexagonal. So hexagonal means that there are 6 sides with the base edge of 9 centimeters and a slant height of 7. Well, if this edge is 9 centimeters, that means all of the 6 edges are 9 centimeters. So to get the perimeter, each side is 9 inches times the 6 sides, which is really the same as 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9. That's what multiplication is, okay? And then you're going to get 54. So the perimeter is 54. So to calculate out the lateral area, we're going to do 1/2 times our perimeter, which is 54, times our slant height, which is given to us as 7. So then again, we can type that into our calculator and multiply it out. We get 189 centimeters squared for our final answer for number 2. All right, so how do we calculate out the surface area of a regular pyramid? Okay, well, the surface area is going to be equal to the lateral area plus the base area. So just maybe make a note to yourself that BA doesn't represent a naughty word, it represents base area. Okay, so then to calculate out the surface area, let's plug that into the formula. We're going to have 1/2 times our perimeter times our slant height plus B. And in this case, we're going to use B to represent the base area. Now that's going to depend on which shape you have. That's going to depend, do you have a square? Do you have a rectangle? Do you have a hexagon? That base area is going to depend on the shape of your base. So there's not necessarily one set formula that we can use. All right, let's take a look at number 3. It wants us to find the surface area of the square pyramid to the nearest tenth. So what we don't know is our slant height. What we do know is our altitude. Now notice that that forms a right triangle. So let's go ahead and let's get our slant. So we have a right triangle. So to get our slant height L, we need to use the Pythagorean theorem. If this whole thing is 12, half of it is going to be 6. So I have a right triangle with this length of 6, this length of 16, and L. So 16 squared plus 6 squared is equal to L squared. So then we're going to go ahead and calculate that out. So we get 36 plus 256 is equal to L squared. So L squared is equal to 292. So to solve for L, we're going to take the square root of both sides, and you get L is equal to 17.1. So this length right there is 17.1. So let's go ahead and let's calculate out the surface area. So the surface area is going to be equal to 1/2 the perimeter times the slant height plus the area of the base. Well, let's plug in what we know. Well, the 1/2 is going to stay there. The perimeter is going to be, each of these is 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12. So 12 4 times. And when you multiply 12 4 times, you end up getting 48. So the perimeter is 48. And then we got for our length of 17.1. Now we need to add the area of a base. Well, our base is a square. To calculate out the area of the square, we're just going to do base times height, which is 12 times 12. So let's go ahead and let's simplify this down some more. So for our lateral area, we're going to have 1/2 times 48 times 17.1. And that's going to give us 410.4 plus 12 times 12, which is 144. So then we can take and we can add those two together, and we get 554.4. Our label is centimeters, so then it's going to be squared, for the area is centimeters squared. All right, next, let's take a look at the lateral area of a cone. So the lateral area for the cone is 1/2 the perimeter times the slant height. So notice that the slant height of a cone is that length of the side going up. Now for the perimeter of a circle, the perimeter is the same as the circumference. Go ahead. The circumference is 2 pi r. Thank you. 2 pi r. So really our lateral area formula then is just going to be 1/2 times 2 pi r times L. Well, let's make it even easier, because 1/2 times 2 is going to cancel out. So the lateral area is really just pi r L. So that makes it pretty easy, okay? It's just pi r L. Now let's take a look at the surface area. So the surface area is going to be our lateral area plus, again, oops, not equals, plus the area of the base. That should be a plus sign. So let's go ahead and let's calculate that in. So the lateral area is pi r L. Now, to calculate the base of a cone, the base of a cone is always a circle. How do you calculate out the area of a circle? Well, that's just pi r squared. So this right here is your surface area formula. You have pi r L, so remember L represents that slant height, plus pi r squared. All right, let's take a look now at number 7. A waffle cone is 5.5 inches tall, and the diameter of the base is 2.5 inches. Find the lateral area of the cone. So what we don't know is that lateral, or the slant height, right? Because the cone itself is 5.5 inches. And if the diameter is 2.5 inches, if we divide that by 2, we get a radius of 1.25 inches. So that means that this right here is 1.25. So we need to use that to calculate out x. That's going to give us our slant height. So we're going to have 5.5 squared plus 1.25 squared is equal to x squared, or L squared if you want to keep true to that lateral area. So then we're going to have 30.25 plus 1.5625 is equal to x squared. So we get x squared is equal to 31.8125. So to undo the square, we're going to take the square root of both sides, and we get that x is equal to 5.6. So that's your slant height, is 5.6. So now we want to calculate out the lateral area. So to find the lateral area, what we're going to do is we are going to do the lateral area is going to be pi times the radius, which I got to be 1.25, times our slant height, which I got to be 5.6. So now I can go ahead and plug all of that in my calculator. Pi times 1.25 times 5.6. So then I get 21.999999, and that's going to be inches squared. So I'm just going to round that to be 22 inches squared for my lateral area for number 7. All right, let's take a look at number 8. So for number 8, we want to find the surface area of a cone with a diameter of 14.8. So I'm going to go ahead and divide that by 2. That means my radius is 7.4, and it gives me the slant height. So to find the surface area, remember I need to take the lateral area plus the area of the base. So to get the lateral area, I'm going to have pi times the radius, which is 7.4, times the slant height, which is 15, plus the area of the base, which is pi, and then our r squared. So you can actually go and you can type this whole thing in your calculator right now. Pi times 7.4 times 15 plus pi times 7.4 squared. And when you do that, you get 520.75 centimeters squared. So that's your final answer for number 8. Or number 5, jumped ahead again. All right, let's take a look now at number 6. So for number 6, we want to find the surface area of the cone. Well, it gives us the lateral, the slant height, and the radius. So we're good to go. So surface area is going to be your lateral area plus the area of your base. So our lateral area is pi times our radius, which is 0.8, times our slant height, which is 2.2, plus the area of the base, which is pi, times the radius squared. So I have pi times 0.8 times 2.2 plus pi times 0.8 squared. So you can punch that all in your calculator, and I suggest you try it with me to make sure you're doing it correctly. And you end up getting 7.54, and then it's going to be millimeters squared. So that concludes your note video today. Go ahead and show me your completed note sheet when you're done. Thanks for listening.